Hi, I'm following along with Paul McWhorter's Raspberry Pi lessons, and um, we have a good group here, and we try to help each other out. And one of the commenters down here, Ballard Tech, asked about he was having trouble finding info on project that he'd like to do, and I knew a little bit about what he was asking, and I thought, well, be a fun rabbit hole to go down this morning. So I took all his questions and tried to answer, get code going to prove out at least the concepts of what he wants to do. Um, so basically, what he wants to use a 2004 LCD. So we can't use the 1602 library for sure. So I had found I hadn't used it yet, but I knew that there was one called the RPLCD library that would work with the 2004 as well. So I investigated that because he wanted to display things on his LCD. But what he was trying to display was a lot of file information from, I guess, his Raspberry Pi and different folders and stuff. And so he wanted to know like the free space on his drive or SD card, I guess it is. And that was one thing. And total number of files in a directory. I actually knew how to get that, so I didn't have to look up too much on that. The latest file name and date, I did have to look up how to sort them so that you would bring up the latest file name. It was a fun rabbit hole to go down. And so I was able to get that going. So let's go over to the Raspberry Pi. VNC and into it as always. So let's go into it. So it ended up being 32 lines of code, and I left some links in the code, and I'll put this code up on GitHub and link to it in my description here as well. So we were going to need quite a few libraries to do this. So we needed SH utility library, the glob library, OS library, and date and time, because we wanted to work with the date and time on that. And then the RP LCD library. It was a little different way of importing that that last library. Tried just doing import RP LCD and that didn't work. So that's glad it took me 15 minutes to figure that out. Anyhow, so I've broken this down into two parts. I actually just went through first thing this morning and just tried to get the data and display it in the monitor down here of what he was asking for. This first one here, I had to look it up, and that was that SH utility, and that gives you the stats on the drive. So let me go ahead and run this. And it is a new set of data. It's not a whole lot. So I'm finding the information he wants and just printing it to the console as a thing. So we're returning, when we use this, it's returning this stats, and what that is a named tuple. So you can see down here that the named tuple is you have usage, and it's total space, used space, and free space. So he was asking about free space, so we want to we'll get to that later. Then he was asking about the number of files in a directory. So the way you do that is you put your directory in that you want to check, and then you use the wildcard star and then a period and then another star. What that does is it pulls out all the files, but it doesn't return the directory names. If you just put a star down here, you would get files, but you would also get directory names as well. So as long as all your files have extensions on them, you'll get the right number back by doing star dot star at the end of that. It'll pull all your files out of a directory, but not the subdirectory names or anything. And then that's going to return a list. That's going to return a list of string file paths as strings, and it's going to be a list. So we can use the length of that list to tell you how many files are in there. So that answered number of files. That worked out well. And then the latest file, and say didn't know how to do this, but it seemed to be fairly easy. Your list functions have a max thing on it so that you can find the max, but it has to key on this os.path and get C time, which is the way that brings your sorting on that. And you're using your path that you got, your file list path, to get that sorting on that. So that worked out. I gave you the latest file name, and it gives you the full name of it. So we can see down here the latest file. So, okay, so the number of files, I only have 2 files. I guess I don't have that up. Let's see. I just use the picture directory on here. Let's see if it comes up. Come on. I'm probably going to get 5 or 6 of these now. Oh, well. Let's keep going. Got probably too much going on in here to do that. So we got 2 files in that directory, and the newest file in the picture directory, and this is the whole root, home, pie, pictures, and the newest one was, I only had 2 files, and the newest one was called soslab.png. So it brought that up. So that's the latest file. And now you want to find what the time was for that that latest file, when it was posted. So when you get this get C time, it's the epoch time, and I think that's like the second since January 1st, 1970, maybe a different date, but it's something standard that all computers seem to use. But it returns us seconds and fractions of seconds. So we can see that I printed that out, second since 1970. And you can see it's a big number and then a big fraction in the number. So, and then to change that epoch time, we can use our date time library, and we use that from timestamp, and you want to get the date and time. And that's going to return a date and time object, and it shows it in this format here with seconds and then fractions of seconds. So that was all the things that we need that he asked to find, and so I said, well, got that done. But when you go to just display it on the LCD, you only got a limited number of characters. So I had to figure out, okay, how can I make this readable on an LCD? So these next 4 lines here take care of that. So when we get this free space up here, like I say, it's a named tuple. So the cool thing about a named tuple is that you can go at the end of it. So we had stats, and then you say stats dot free. So that's just going to return this number here, this 54 billion or whatever it is, 5.4 billion, whatever it is. And it's going to return, that in whole number or fraction number. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get gigabytes. So you divide it by a billion, or 10 to the ninth power. So I divided that, and then I rounded it to 2 decimal places because don't have too many spaces on our display. So we're going to concact a string here. Of course, we turn this into a string as well because that's going to return a number, so we have to string it. So our free space, and then our number, and then GB, just so we know that it's in gigabytes. So that worked out. I was able to use one line of code to get all that done. And then the file name, like you say, the file name, even though it wasn't too long, this is actually over 20 characters. So it scrolled past and went to another line. I said, well, we know what folder we're looking in. So all we really need is what the file name is without all the path information. Because you should already, if you do this, you're going to know what path you're in. So you'll just have different file names that you're looking at. So to get that, Python has string functions, that methods that do this, and they have a split, but this is a right split. And what the difference is between that, a split, it goes down through the string and looks for a certain character, and it splits it on that character. That's the regular split. Starts at the front and goes to the back. A right split starts at the right side and goes the other way. So you can see this file name down here that we wanted to start from the right side and go until we found this slash there. So that's what we did. We're right splitting, looking for a slash, the first, and we're only looking for one. You can put more if you want to split up your file into more things. You could leave that off or whatever, or make it more. But we just were interested in the first one. That's just going to split the string into 2 separate strings. So we are interested in the second one. There's 0 base, so you got sub 0 and then sub 1. So we were interested in the sub 1. So all we're doing is returning the newest file name, and that's going to do that. So that gave us a nice thing to put there. I didn't add any text in here because it could be up to 20 characters if you had long file names. So I figured they'll know it's a file name with a dot, whatever. And then there you go. And then number of files. All we had to do on that was take our length that we got up, that we did up here, and we wanted to turn it into a string, and I put number of files and then string, concatenated that together. And then the date time down here. So we had all this, and then we had these seconds here. And like I say, this is a date time object, so you have to do something to get it into a string. And the date time library has a method called strftime, or however you say that. And I left like I say, I got all these links down here so you can go and see what all this means. But basically, they start out with year, I guess, day, or this maybe month and day, I'm not sure. But I like to do the month/day/year format, and then figured, you might want to know by hours, minutes, and seconds, but without the fractions of seconds. So this just gives you whole numbers, hour and 24-hour format. So you might get 2200 or whatever. And then minutes, and then whole seconds. There's no fractions on that. You would have to add milliseconds, which is a separate thing if you wanted to do that. So I just formatted it that way. And then the character LCD, like I said, I also show you how to link to the documents on that, how to set that up. You'll have to make sure that mine was a 027 is on that one as well, but you'll have to do the however you get the I2C number off of your thing. Paul showed you how to do that in the list, so we did that. So this initiates it as an LCD. Normally I do this at the top, but I just left it down here just to keep it separate for now. This only actually runs through one time. You're going to have to incorporate this into your loop somehow. So you, and then probably most of this would, I just run it as a function somewhere else. Yeah, run it, put it all together as a function because that's what you want out of it. And you can take out whatever prints you want up here if you don't want to worry about printing them out or anything. But like I said, we're taking these four things and we're putting each one on a line 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0. So just putting, because these are all, I made sure I made these all strings now and they just putting the strings on there. So I don't know how, whether this is going to show up or not. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. All right, I got to pick everything up here. I didn't bring out my document camera to do this. If it unplugs, I'll be done. So, all right, so you can see what we got. Has the free space in gigabytes, the 2 decimal places. Got the SOS lab.png is the file name. Number of files is 2, and then you see the date and time that SOS lab file was saved to the, or last saved to the drive. So wide open to questions if you have any questions about it, but I knew about 20% of this before I started and probably spent 2 hours this morning going through and finding the rest. I understand that it is kind of hard to find search terms and stuff like that, but usually what I do with finding things, start out because we're working in Python. If you don't type Python as your first search term, it usually ends up bringing you other stuff from C++ or JavaScript or something like that. So I always start out with a Python and then just as few words as I can on that. So let's as a disk usage, I think I said disk space or something. I said Python find disk space or something like that, and this sh utility came up and was able to find stuff on that. It's amazing how many people, like I say, sometimes you get to the official documents and sometimes you get to the Geeks for Geeks and different file places where you get examples and everything. And but almost every question that I've ever had, I might have to search 2 or 3 websites, but I finally end up finding what I want on that. And you know, and like I said, I've used the glob before, so that was a easy one. And this keying on this as max, this was kind of interesting. And I tell you the truth, I'll have to look a little bit harder as to why it worked. I pulled that one off of an example code and it worked right out of the way it was listed there. I just changed my file list here to match whatever the list of files that came out of glob and the name of it, and it just worked. I said, okay. So I really didn't look into why that. I understand the key and the os.path is you're getting information from that, but it's kind of funny that you're starting out with just a list and then they're looking at things in that path, getting information from items in that path to sort the list on or get the max of. That's just amazing to me that Python can do that all with one line of code. But good that it does. Let's see. This one, the time I did a calendar on my PySimple GUI. I'd done a calendar, so I knew a little bit about the date, time, and formatting and how that worked. So that wasn't too bad. Anyhow, if you have questions, forgot your handle already. Your handle, Ballard Tech. Let me know. I'm happy to answer questions if I can. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.